Hey, my friend, how are you? Welcome to day 181 of Wade in the Word, and welcome to the beach. We are here on the Oregon coast, and I am so happy to be with you. I had a long drive yesterday and a very late night, and this morning my cousin and I woke up and we took the dogs down to the beach and got totally wet with the Oregon morning drizzle. And so my theme for the day is beach hair, don't care. But you guys have seen me with my hair done and with my hair not done. So anyway, I'm not really concerned about that, but it's good to be with you. A couple of housekeeping things. I wanted to let you know that we have 3 dogs in the house, my 2, and then my cousin's dog. And they, my Theodore, who's the mini Aussie brown one that you've seen on the bed in the background in the past, he and Stormy are doing a fantastic job. Stormy is a black lab, and she and Theo have hit it off very well. My cute little Maggie, who you see right here on the bed, that's her, not her head is way down there. She tends to be very protective of me. She loves her mama, and so we've had a few little go-arounds between her and Stormy, and would appreciate your prayers for the week, for my cousin and I, that we can coexist with our beautiful babies, our fur babies, and that things can go well. All of that to say that as I've been getting ready to record for us, the dogs have gone bonkers a few times, and we've had 3 dogs barking throughout the house. So if that happens, I'm going to stop my reading and pause, and then I will later try to edit it all out so you don't have to hear barking dog. But you might hear just a skosh of a little bit of barking while I'm still reading, and then I'll just pause, and then I'll do that for us later so you don't have to endure that. Maybe they will be amazing and we'll get through this recording without any barking. But if we don't, that's okay. So, how are you doing? That's a question I have. How are the readings going for you? Good. I personally feel as if I have not been very engaged the past couple days in the readings. There's been so much extra going on in my spaces around me that I kind of think I've just been doing the readings and going through the motions so we can still keep moving forward, but I haven't been getting them here. And today, as I was preparing, I ended up kind of doing a little bit of backstory, a little bit of reading around and chasing after some thoughts and some questions that I had. And so I wanted to just share with you some of that information, and then I would like to do our regular summary of the chapters so we can kind of have a foundation and know where we're going in the next 3 chapters of Ezekiel 25, 26, and 27. 25, 26, and 27, yes. So that's where we're going today. And I just pray the Lord's blessing over you, and I just pray and hope everything is well in your little neck of the world. So let's join each other together in prayer and pray for our time together. Jesus, I thank you that we can come together. If not physically, then we can come together as brothers and sisters in the Spirit. And I thank you that you have given us the blessing of connection in reading your word together. I know for a fact, Father, that you are doing remarkable things in people's lives that have chosen to go through this journey of reading through your word in a year. And because of that, I thank you. I thank you for how you are transforming us through the renewal of our minds. And I thank you for the rich depth of your word. Even today, Jesus, stuff I've already read yesterday and the day before, you were revealing things to me, and I'd already read those things, but there's just so much. It is meat. It is meat. And I thank you that it's not just a couple slices of salami, but that it is a feast. It is a charcuterie board, a buffet that you have prepared for us in the presence of our enemies, that we get to feast upon when we come and take time to engage our heart with your word, our minds with your word. I just thank you that you have so much to feed us, and that we can come back to the same bits and the same chapters and the same verses and completely receive a different buffet of things to feast upon. Your word is active, it's alive, it's breathing, it shifts, it's stable, it's constant, but it changes with the seasons that we're in. It stays the same. We change, our perspective changes, making it new and alive and more wonderful every time we come into its presence. So wrap us up with this love letter that is your word, the Bible, today. Show us wonderful things. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for directing us and discipling us and teaching us and growing us. I thank you. And I just pray that everyone would receive a wonderful nugget that would help them and be an encouragement for them today. We love you so much, Holy Spirit. We love you so much, Jesus, and we love you so much, Abba. Father, thank you. I pray all of this in your name, Jesus. Amen. So what I wanted to do is we're starting with chapter 25 today. And because I was a little bit disengaged at the end of chapter 4, and I think I skipped a day, so please forgive me. I will try to get us caught up. But I wanted to read a little bit at the end of chapter 4. And as I was preparing and I was reading that, something popped out at me. It took me all the way back to Ezekiel 3. And I can't believe that I didn't pay more attention to these verses. And so I want to point them out to you, and you let me know if you caught it and if you've been following and tracking this little thread the whole entire time. But get a load of this, my friends. Okay, at the end of chapter 24, we have the death of Ezekiel's wife. Absolutely horrible. And once again, God takes this tragic experience and he uses it to reveal something to the people. But let me just go back and read that. The death of Ezekiel's wife, chapter 24:15. Then this message came to me from the Lord, Son of man, with one blow I will take away your dearest treasure. Yet you must not show any sorrow at her death. Could you imagine? Do not weep, let there be no tears. Groan silently, but let there be no wailing at her grave. So what I love about that is God was saying to Ezekiel, you can still mourn. I recognize that. You're going to need to grieve. You can groan, but there needs to be some self-control here. Okay? We're not going to go all wailing like it is customary for us to do. Do not uncover your head or take off your sandals. Do not perform the usual rituals of mourning or accept any food brought to you by consoling friends. So I proclaimed this to the people the next morning, and in the evening my wife died. The next morning, I would assume after, I did everything I had been told to do. Then the people asked me, Ezekiel, what does all this mean? What are you trying to tell us? So I said to them, a message came to me from the Lord, and I was told to give this message to the people of Israel. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I will defile my temple. I want to just pause there. I want us to think about the brevity of that. This is the sovereign Lord who is saying, I, the sovereign Lord, will defile my temple. You know, I know that in the tribulation, the temple will be allowed to be built. And then halfway through the tribulation, 3.5 years in, the Antichrist will go into the temple and defile the temple. Now I know I talk a lot about this, about how Satan cannot create anything, but he can invert things. So when I read this, God saying, I will defile my temple, I thought about that during the 7-year tribulation at the midway point when the temple is defiled and the eyes of the Jewish people are opened. and they recognize the Antichrist for who he is. I thought about, is God going to use Antichrist to defile the temple at that point to get the attention back to get the eyes of the Jewish people back on him? Is that what's going to happen? And how this is like a precursor to that, a foreshadowing of that? Do you see what thread I'm pulling at here, right? I hope you see. We're going to move on because there's actually another thing I want to talk about. The source of I will defile my temple, the source of your security and pride, the place your heart delights in. And isn't that the way it is with a lot of Jewish people right now? Is they have everything to go. They have the red heifers, they've practiced the sacrifices, they have everything ready to go. They just need the building and they're ready to move in. They even have people who have come straight from the Levitical lines. They are direct descendants from the Levitical line, trained and ready at the Temple Mount Institute in Jerusalem. They're ready. It's all set up and ready to go. Your sons and daughters whom you left behind in Judah will be slaughtered by the sword. Then you will do as Ezekiel has done. You will not mourn in public or console yourselves by eating the food brought by friends. So Ezekiel was an example for them. He role modeled to them what they then will do once they find out that the temple's been defiled. Your heads will remain covered and your sandals will not be taken off. You will not mourn or weep, but you will waste away because of your sins. You will groan among yourselves for all the evil you have done. Ezekiel is an example for you. You will do just as he has done. And when that time comes, you will know that I am the sovereign Lord. I believe that during the 7-year tribulation, midway point, when the Antichrist defiles the temple, I believe that at that time, the Jewish people will know that Jesus is the sovereign Lord. Verse 25, then the Lord said to me, Ezekiel, and this is where I want to go today, Son of man, on the day I take away their stronghold, the temple, their joy and glory, their heart's desire, their dearest treasure, I will also take away their sons and daughters. And on that day, a survivor from Jerusalem will come to you in Babylon and tell you what has happened. This is what I latched onto. And when he arrives, your voice will suddenly return so you can talk to him, and you will be a symbol for these people. Then they will know that I am the Lord. So I started wondering, who is this survivor? For a while, I thought that he was Sariah, Barak's brother in the book of Jeremiah. Remember, Jeremiah's scribe, his name was Barak, and he had a brother. There were two Sariahs. There was the high priest, and he gets captured along with Zephaniah, and they get murdered back in Babylon. But there was another Sariah, and that was Barak's brother. And he's the one that Jeremiah ends up writing on a scroll all the things that had happened, and he gets sent to Babylon to read these things to the people. But scholars do not believe it is either of these guys who is the messenger that is being talked about here, the survivor from Jerusalem. So this is interesting. In Ezekiel 24, 26 through 27, I'm excited about this, so just hang with me here. In Ezekiel 24, now listen to these, listen, those of you who like numbers, listen to the numbers here. Ezekiel 24, 26 through 27. God tells Ezekiel that a survivor from Jerusalem will come to Ezekiel. We just read this. He will come to Ezekiel in Babylon, and he will tell Ezekiel what had happened in Jerusalem. And when he arrives, Ezekiel's voice will suddenly return to Ezekiel so he can talk to the survivor. This restoration of his voice will be a symbol for the people. They will know that the Lord is the Lord. Now, I was like, what in the world even happened to Ezekiel's voice, and what does that mean? And how did I even miss this? So double gold stars for all of you who caught this when it happened, not what we just read, but what I'm going to share with you in a minute, and who've been following this little strand the whole entire time. If we go back in our Bibles, that would be this way for you guys watching me on the screen, to Ezekiel 3, listen to the numbers, verses 26 and 27. I know, right? We just read Ezekiel 24, which is divisible by the number 3. 3 times 8 is 24. I think that's pretty cool. Ezekiel 24, 26, and 27. We just read this about Ezekiel's voice being restored. If we go back to Ezekiel 3, 26 and 27, that's where Ezekiel's voice gets taken away. I don't know about you, but I think that is pretty amazing how the verse numbers aligned. I think there's something to it, and I think God delights in us delighting in those kind of fun little things. But let me tell you what Ezekiel 3, 26 and 27 says. It says, God said to Ezekiel, and I will make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth so that you will be speechless and unable to rebuke them. I would assume the people in exile, for they are rebels. But when I loosen your tongue and let you speak, then you will say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, then so on and so forth, like we've been reading every single time. The sovereign Lord says, boom, those who choose to listen will listen, but those who refuse will refuse, for they are rebels. All of this to say, I totally missed that whole thing, this whole entire time, 25 chapters, Ezekiel's tongue has been stuck to the roof of his mouth, except for those times when the Lord loosens it and lets him speak. This is a kind of a cool thing. How many of us need our tongues loosened so that we can speak? Just food for thought. Not to say that God is sticking your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Maybe something you need to ask the Holy Spirit about. I also like what he says, people will choose to listen, and those who choose to listen will listen, and those who refuse will refuse. And, I think about how we or others or the truth is trying to be proclaimed in season and out of season, and how some people are so open to hearing the truth, they choose to listen to wisdom, and how some people refuse. And what does God call the ones that refuse? Rebels. So my question also was, who was the survivor from Jerusalem? And the short answer is, we don't know. The Bible never identifies him, but we do know quite a bit about him. So let me go through that really quick. Okay, so in Ezekiel 24, 25 through 27, God does tell Ezekiel, on the day that Jerusalem falls, a survivor will escape and come to Babylon to report what has happened. The God also tells him that Ezekiel's mouth will then be opened. So again, reminder from Ezekiel 3, 26 through 27, onward to where we've been, Ezekiel's speech has been restricted by God. He could speak God's messages when commanded, but he was not speaking freely in the meantime. God said that restriction would end when news of Jerusalem and its fall finally reached him. It hasn't reached him yet, and it's not going to reach him again until chapter 33. So the fulfillment of that comes in Ezekiel 33:21, and that verse says, it was in the 12th year of the exile, in the 10th month on the 5th day of the month. It's not like he was counting down the days, was he? Yeah, he was. So does that mean that he had 12 years of having his, let's see here, I think it would have to be, I'd have to go back and do the math. I don't think it was 12 full years because Ezekiel wasn't brought into exile until the second deportation. And that was, yeah. They were in exile a couple years before the second deportation. Okay. So why did it take so long for Ezekiel's tongue to be loosened? This is one of those details that makes scripture feel very real. Listen to this. Listen to these facts. Jerusalem fell in 586 BC. Okay, you've got that. If those of you who like the numbers, here we go. It fell in 586 BC. The survivor from Jerusalem had to travel roughly 700 to 900 miles. That's a long way. That's a really long way, okay? Gosh, that might be how far I've traveled to get here. And by car, that took 7 hours. Huh. From Jerusalem to the Jewish settlements near the Kabar Canal in Babylon was 700 to 900 miles. And he did not have a zippy little car. He couldn't travel in a straight line across the Arabian desert. Instead, he likely followed the established trade routes north through Syria, then southeast along that Euphrates River, which I once upon a time showed you on a map, and then arriving finally in Babylon. The journey by foot took several months, especially for someone fleeing a devastated city. By the time that he had arrived, everything Ezekiel had prophesied had come true. So why is this survivor an important person? Oh, you guys, we might meet this person in heaven. Would that not be super cool? I wonder how we're going to know that they're the survivor. Maybe we just know. I would love to meet this person. I think that'd be really cool. God, can you arrange that? Although unnamed, he changes the entire direction of Ezekiel's ministry. Think of the book of Ezekiel like this. Chapters 1 through 24, Jerusalem will fall. Now we're at 25. 25 through 32, judgment is being spoken against the surrounding nations. And then we get to chapter 33. The messenger arrives. When the messenger arrives, they find out for a fact Jerusalem has fallen. Now everything changes. And from this point onward, Ezekiel no longer needs to warn what? He no longer needs to warn that judgment is coming because the judgment has happened. It has already happened. So the rest of the book of Ezekiel focuses on the Good Shepherd. Yay! Israel's restoration. Yay! Gog and Magog. Yay, I'm so excited to study that. And the future temple. The messenger marks the turning point of the entire book. So, if this person is so important, why doesn't God tell us his name? These are some of the thoughts. The emphasis is not on who brought the news. The emphasis, by omitting the person's name, it turns the emphasis to what the news actually is itself. Does that make sense? For years, many of the exiles probably thought Jeremiah is too pessimistic. Ezekiel's visions are far too extreme. Then one exhausted survivor arrives and says, the city has fallen. And in that moment, every prophecy was confirmed and God's word is proven true. So can you imagine this man arriving? He's utterly exhausted. Maybe he's hardly clothed anymore. I don't know what time of the year it was. We could probably find that out. But I know that in the winter months, it gets very cold over in Israel and the Middle East, ironically enough. He has seen trauma. He has been through trauma. The temple has been destroyed. Jerusalem has been burned. His friends and family have been killed or scattered. The kingdom of David has come to an end. This guy was not a famous prophet that we know of. He was not a king. He was not a priest. He was simply a survivor carrying heartbreaking news. Yet God used this unnamed man to signal the beginning of one of the greatest sections of hope in the Bible. My friends, is that not beautiful? That's how our God works. Sometimes, every time usually, God uses, well, not every time, I shouldn't say that, Lord, sorry, that's putting you in a box, and that's not true. The majority of the time, let's quantify it that way. God will use an ordinary, unnamed person at pivotal moments in his story. After the messenger arrived, God immediately begins speaking through Ezekiel about, like we said, the shepherd, the new heart, the valley of dry bones, and the return of his glory. Do you remember those verses when the glory of God left the temple? Do you remember that? The messenger announces at the end of one chapter, but God is already prepping in the next chapter for wonderful, wonderful things. So I wanted to just point that out so that when we get to chapter 33, we have got that backstory on this person that's going to come in and give the news. And in chapter 33 of Ezekiel, things shift. In chapter 25, things are going to start shifting as well. In fact, in chapter 25 today, we are going to turn, God is going to, not us, but God is going to turn his attention outward. Why? Because he is not merely the God of just Israel. He is the Lord of all the nations. So the chapters we're going to read today are going to remind us that while God disciplines his own people, he also holds every nation accountable for its pride, cruelty, violence, and arrogance. I'm going to read that again, and I would like to challenge you to think of the nations that you know right now in our time of history around this world that are showing and doing these things. They will be held accountable for these things. They will be held accountable for how they respond and how they treat Israel. And oh my goodness, aren't the nations turning away from support of Israel? So I'm going to say this again. Think of all of these nations. Just spend this time in your brain thinking about this. He holds every nation accountable for its pride, cruelty, violence, and arrogance. Can we even think of one nation that's not going to be held accountable? Maybe Antarctica. That's not a nation, though. Come on, Becky. I think I got an A in geography. Okay, let's look at our chapters and we'll dive in because time's a ticking. Historical setting. We are in 586 to 585 BC through these chapters. Jerusalem has either just fallen or is in its final stages of destruction. The surrounding nations are rejoicing, and many are thinking Israel's God must be weak. But now God responds. And these prophecies are not about revenge. They are about justice. God is not a God of revenge. God is a God of justice. Say that with me one time so we get it locked in our noggins. God is not a God of revenge. He is a God of justice. So when the people say to us, your God is a cruel God, why would I worship that God? He's mean. He's a revengeful, spiteful God. We say God is not a God of revenge. He is a God of justice, though. God demonstrates that every nation ultimately answers to him. In Ezekiel 25, there will be judgment against 4 neighboring nations of Israel. The chapter contains 4 short prophecies, and these nations have one thing in common. They celebrated Judah's destruction. Okay. Instead of mourning, they rejoiced. These nations are Ammon, which is located east of the Jordan River, when Jerusalem fell, the Ammonites mocked God's people. And God says, because you rejoiced over my sanctuary being destroyed, judgment will come to you. Moab. And these are all names we've heard before, and these are all prophecies, the names that we've heard in prophecies before, that these nations would come to an end, and they did. We talked about that weeks and weeks and weeks ago. Moab. Moab claimed Judah was no different than any other nation. In other words, they denied Israel's unique covenant relationship with God. Let that be a lesson to us. When people say, well, Israel is just like any other nation. Yeah, I guess you're right. No, no, Becky. Israel has a unique covenant relationship with God. Let us not forget. God responds and says, guess what, Moab? You will also face judgment. Edom. This nation has a very long history with Israel, remember? Who did the Edomites descend from? Esau. And who is Esau's brother? Jacob. And Jacob and Esau brothers, from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So instead of helping Judah, which they should have, they were relatives, blood relatives, they took revenge and exploited her weakness, and God will condemn them for their bitterness. And then Philistia. This is Israel's longtime enemy. The Philistines acted with hatred and vengeance. God declares that they too will face his judgment. Now notice something important. God does not judge them merely because they were Israel's enemies. That would be, from my personal opinion, a revengeful, spiteful spirit. But he judges them because of 5 things: pride, violence, revenge, hatred, and delight in another nation's suffering. So, chapter 25, the major theme is God is the judge of all nations. Let's talk about chapter 26. This is a prophecy against Tyre. Now, Ezekiel will turn toward one of the most famous cities in the ancient world, and that is the city of Tyre. And Tyre was wealthy, beautiful, strategically located, and an international trade center. Wouldn't it be kind of cool to be able to jump in a little time machine and go back and see what some of these nations look like in their glory and their splendor? Think of Tyre as one of the greatest commercial capitals of the Mediterranean. Ooh, how beautiful water. Why is Tyre being judged? Well, when Jerusalem fell, Tyre celebrated. They believed, now that Jerusalem is gone, our businesses will flourish. Well, that seems selfish, prideful. God says back, your pride will become your downfall. And then in chapter 26, Nebuchadnezzar is going to come. And as God predicts, Nebuchadnezzar will attack Tyre. And this happened historically. It happened later. The island portion of Tyre did survive for a time. But then over 2 centuries later, Alexander the Great completed its destruction by building a causeway from the mainland to the island. And many students of prophecy find Ezekiel's description remarkably detailed in light of these later events. God then says that Tyre would become a place where fishermen spread their nets. And today, parts of ancient Tyre's mainland ruins have indeed been used by local fishermen, a detail often noted in discussions of Ezekiel's prophecy. What a kick in the pants. So a major theme of chapter 26 is pride cannot withstand God's judgment. And then finally today we will finish with Ezekiel 27, the funeral song for Tyre. This chapter is a beautiful piece of Hebrew poetry. God is going to sing a lament, not because Tyre repented, but because something magnificent has fallen. Tyre is compared to a magnificent ship. Everything about the ship is impressive. Its wood, its sails, decorations, crew, and cargo are described in remarkable detail. The nations that are listed in this chapter have merchants from all over the ancient world. They all traded silver, gold, ivory, horses, cedar, linen, spices, and precious stones. I can't even imagine. This chapter gives us an incredible picture of international commerce around the Mediterranean during that time in history. So what is the point regarding Tyre? Well, Tyre trusted a couple things. Tyre trusted its economy, its wealth, its influence, its beauty, its international connections. But God says none of these things can save you. Eventually, the magnificent ship sinks. A major theme of chapter 27, my friends, is going to be wealth without humility cannot endure. Now, these chapters in Ezekiel that we're going to read today have some historical connections, and they fit really beautifully together with a larger prophetic picture. Jeremiah, in his chapters 46 through 51, also contained prophecies against the nations, if you remember. And if you remember in Isaiah 13 to 23, Isaiah includes judgments against Babylon, Moab, Damascus, and Tyre. Isaiah and Ezekiel often address many of the same nations, just from different points in history. Remember, Isaiah was before Ezekiel. Then in Revelation 18, we will read of the fall of Babylon the Great. And this will contain a striking echo of Exodus 27, which we haven't read quite yet. Both describe merchants mourning the collapse of a wealthy commercial power. Many scholars view Ezekiel's lament over Tyre as foreshadowing Revelation's lament over Babylon. So here's some thoughts for today. Tyre trusted commerce, wealth, influence, and reputation. Jerusalem trusted the temple, false security, and outward religion. And both of these nations were sorely disappointed. Only God proves to be an unshakable foundation. When we read the lament over Tyre, we can't help but think of Jesus' words from Mark 8:36. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? Tyre gained much of the whole world, but it lost the one thing that mattered most, and that was humility before God. So my question to you today is, what are you trusting? What is your list of things that you are trusting that most likely could disappoint you and prove that God is your unshakable foundation, not those things? Food for thought. Now, my friends, you've been wonderful. Let us jump in and let's read our chapters for the day. Ezekiel 24:25. Then the Lord said to me, Son of man, on the day I take away their stronghold, their joy and glory, their heart's desire, their dearest treasure, I will also take away their sons and daughters. And on that day, a survivor from Jerusalem will come to you in Babylon and tell you what has happened. And when he arrives, your voice will suddenly return, so you can talk to him, and you will be a symbol for these people. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Chapter 25, a message for Ammon. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, turn and face the land of Ammon and prophesy against his people. Give the Ammonites this message from the sovereign Lord. Hear the word of the sovereign Lord. Because you cheered when my temple was defiled, mocked Israel in her desolation, and laughed at Judah as she went away into exile, I will allow nomads from the eastern deserts to overrun your country. They will set up their camps among you and pitch their tents on your land. They will harvest all your fruit and drink the milk from your livestock. And I will turn the city of Rabbah into a pasture for camels, and all the land of the Ammonites into a resting place for sheep and goats. Then you will know that I am the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Because you clapped and danced and cheered with glee at the destruction of my people, I will raise my fist of judgment against you. I will give you as plunder to many nations. I will say, I will cut you off from being a nation and destroy you completely. Then you will know that I am the Lord. A message for Moab. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Because the people of Moab have said that Judah is just like all the other nations, I will open up their eastern flank and wipe out their glorious frontier towns, Beth Jeshemoth, Baal Meon, and Kiriathaim. And I will hand Moab over to the nomads from the eastern deserts, just as I handed over Ammon. Yes, the Ammonites will no longer be counted among the nations. In the same way, I will bring my judgment down on the Moabites. Then they will know that I am the Lord. A message for Edom. This is what the sovereign Lord says. The people of Edom have sinned greatly by avenging themselves against the people of Judah. Therefore, says the sovereign Lord, I will raise my fist of judgment against Edom. I will wipe out its people and animals with the sword. I will make a wasteland of everything from Teman to Dedan. I will accomplish this by the hand of my people of Israel. They will carry out my vengeance with anger, and Edom will know that this vengeance is from me. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. A message for Philistia. This is what the sovereign Lord says. The people of Philistia have acted against Judah out of bitter revenge and long-standing contempt. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will raise my fist of judgment against the land of the Philistines. I will wipe out the Kerethites and utterly destroy the people who live by the sea. I will execute terrible vengeance against them to punish them for what they have done. And when I have inflicted my revenge, there the Lord is inflicting revenge. And when I have inflicted my revenge, they will know that I am the Lord. Chapter 26, a message for Tyre. On February 3rd, during the 12th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity, this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, Tyre has rejoiced over the fall of Jerusalem, saying, Ha! She who was the gateway to the rich trade routes to the east has been broken, and I am the heir. Because she has been made desolate, I will become wealthy. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am your enemy, O Tyre, and I will bring many nations against you, like the waves of the sea crashing against the shoreline. They will destroy the walls of Tyre and tear down its towers. I will scrape away its soil and make it a bare rock. It will be just a rock in the sea, a place for fishermen to spread their nets. For I have spoken, says the sovereign Lord. Tyre will become the prey of many nations, and its mainland villages will be destroyed by the sword. Then they will know that I am the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. From the north I will bring King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon against Tyre. He is King of kings and brings his horses, chariots, charioteers, and great army. First, he will destroy your mainland villages. Then he will attack you by building a siege wall, constructing a ramp, and raising a roof of shields against you. He will pound your walls with battering rams and demolish your towers with sledgehammers. The hooves of his horses will choke the city with dust, and the noise of the charioteers and chariot wheels will shake your walls as they storm through your broken gates. His horsemen will trample through every street in your city. They will butcher your people, and your strong pillars will topple. They will plunder all your riches and merchants and break down your walls. They will destroy your lovely homes and dump your stones and timbers and even your dust into the sea. I will stop the music of your songs. No more will the sound of harps be heard among your people. I will make your island a bare rock, a place for fishermen to spread their nets. You will never be rebuilt, for I, the Lord, have spoken. Yes, the sovereign Lord has spoken. The effect of Tyre's destruction. This is what the sovereign Lord says to Tyre. The whole coastline will tremble at the sound of your fall, as the screams of the wounded echo in the continuing slaughter. All the seaport rulers will step down from their thrones and take off their royal robes and beautiful clothing. They will sit on the ground trembling with horror at your destruction. Then they will wail for you, singing this funeral song. O famous island city, once ruler of the sea, how you have been destroyed. Your people with their naval power once spread fear around the world. Now the coastlands tremble at your fall. The islands are dismayed as you disappear. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I will make Tyre an uninhabited ruin. Like many others, I will bury you beneath the terrible waves of enemy attack. Great seas will swallow you. I will send you to the pit to join those who descended there long ago. Your city will lie in ruins, buried beneath the earth, like those in the pit who have entered the world of the dead. You will have no place of respect here in the land of the living. I will bring you to a terrible end, and you will exist no more. You will be looked for, but you will never again be found. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. Chapter 27, the end of Tyre's glory. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, sing a funeral song for Tyre, that mighty gateway to the sea, the trading center of the world. Give Tyre this message from the sovereign Lord. You boasted, O Tyre, my beauty is perfect. You extended your boundaries into the sea. Your builders made your beautiful perfect. You were like a great ship built from the finest cypress from Sinir. They took a cedar from Lebanon to make a mast for you. They carved your oars from the oaks of Bashan. Your deck of pine from the coasts of Cyprus was inlaid with ivory. Your sails were made of Egypt's finest linen, and they flew as a banner above you. You stood beneath blue and purple awnings made bright with dyes from the coast of Elisha. Your oarsmen came from Sidon and Arvad. Your helmsmen were skilled men from Tyre itself. Wise old craftsmen from Gerbal did the caulking. Ships from every land came with goods to barter for your trade. Men from distant Persia, Lydia, and Libya served in your great army. They hung your shields and helmets on your walls, giving you great honor. Men from Arvad and Helech stood on your walls. Your towers were manned by men from Gamad. Their shields hung on your walls, completing your beauty. Tarshish sent merchants to buy your wares in exchange for silver, iron, tin, and lead. Merchants from Greece, Tubal, and Meshech brought slaves and articles of bronze to trade with you. From Beth Togarmah came riding horses, chariot horses, and mules, all in exchange for your goods. Merchants came to you from Dedan. Numerous coastlands were your captive markets. They brought payment in ivory, tusks, and ebony wood. Wow, sounds splendid. Syria sent merchants to buy your rich variety of goods. They traded turquoise, purple dyes, embroidery, fine linen, and jewelry of coral and rubies. Judah and Israel traded for your wares, offering wheat from Minnith, figs, honey, olive oil, and balm. Damascus sent merchants to buy your variety of goods, bringing wine from Helbon and white wool from Zahar. Greeks from Uzal came to trade for your merchandise. Wrought iron, cassia, and fragrant calamus were bartered for your wares. Dedan sent merchants to trade their expensive saddle blankets with you. The Arabians and the princes of Kedar sent merchants to trade lambs and rams and male goats in exchange for your goods. The merchants of Sheba and Ramah came with all kinds of spices, jewels, and gold in exchange for your wares. Haran, Canaan, Eden, Sheba, Ashur, and Gilmad came with their merchandise too. They brought choice fabrics to trade, blue cloth, embroidery, and multicolored carpet rolls, and bound with cords. The ships of Tarshish were your ocean caravans. Your island warehouse was filled to the brim. The destruction of Tyre. But look, your oarsmen have taken you into stormy seas. A mighty eastern gale has wrecked you in the heart of the sea. Everything is lost. Your riches and wares, your sailors and pilots, your shipbuilders, merchants, and warriors. On the day of your ruin, everyone on board sinks into the depths of the sea. Your cities by the sea tremble as your pilots carry out in terror. All the oarsmen abandon their ships. The sailors and pilots stand on the shore. They cry aloud over you and weep bitterly. They throw dust on their heads and roll in ashes. They shave their heads in grief for you and dress themselves in burlap. They weep for you with bitter anguish and deep mourning. As they wail and mourn over you, they sing this sad funeral song. Was there ever such a city as Tyre? How now silent at the bottom of the sea. The merchants you traded satisfied the desires of many nations. Kings at the ends of the earth were enriched by your trade. Now you are a wrecked ship, broken at the bottom of the sea. All your merchandise and crew have gone down with you. All who live along the coastlands are appalled at your terrible fate. Their kings are filled with horror and look on with twisted faces. The merchants among the nations shake their heads at the sight of you, for you have come to a horrible end and will exist no more. Wow, that is the word of the Lord, my friends. Well, the Lord be with you while we are absent one from another. And I just ask that the Lord blesses you indeed with what we've read today and allows you some space and opportunity to think on it and think on these words. All right, the Lord be between you and me while we're absent one from another, my friend. God bless you, and I will see you soon in day 182. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.